In a small village nestled between two mountains lived a young boy named Arjun. He was known throughout the village for his undying love for kites. His room was filled with colorful pieces of paper, string, and tiny sticks. He spent hours crafting kites of different shapes and sizes, dreaming of the day he would fly the highest kite in the village's annual kite festival. One summer, Arjun decided to create a masterpiece, a kite so grand and beautiful that it would be remembered for years to come. He used the finest paper, the strongest string, and carefully painted it with bright, bold colors. For days, he worked tirelessly, even late into the night, until finally his creation was ready. The morning of the festival arrived, and the village square was bustling with excitement. Kites of all colors filled the sky, dancing in the wind. Arjun stood proudly with his masterpiece, his heart racing with anticipation. He believed with all his heart that today would be his day, the day he would prove himself to everyone. As he released the kite into the wind, it soared high, catching everyone's attention. The villagers cheered as it rose higher and higher, nearly touching the clouds. Arjun's face lit up with a smile, his heart swelling with pride. But then, without warning, a strong gust of wind tore through the square, and before he could react, his beautiful kite spun wildly out of control. The string snapped, and his masterpiece plummeted to the ground, crashing into pieces. The village fell silent. Arjun's heart sank as he stared at the broken remains of his kite. His eyes filled with tears. All his hard work, his dreams, shattered in an instant. He wanted to run away, to hide from the embarrassment, but something stopped him. A tiny voice inside whispered, "This isn't the end." Ignoring the whispers and laughs from around him, Arjun picked up the broken pieces of his kite. His hands shook, his heart ached, but he refused to give up. Slowly, he began to gather the sticks, the torn paper, and the tangled string. He sat down on the edge of the square, right where everyone could see him, and started to repair his kite. For hours, he worked under the blazing sun. His fingers were bruised, his back ached, but he was determined. Some villagers mocked him, calling him foolish for trying. Others walked by, shaking their heads. But Arjun kept going, focused on his task, driven by a fire inside that refused to be extinguished. Finally, as the sun began to set, he stood up with his kite. It wasn't as perfect as before. The colors were faded, the paper was patched, but it was ready. With a deep breath, he released it once more into the wind. At first, it wobbled, struggling to find balance. But then, slowly, it began to rise, higher and higher. The villagers watched in awe as the broken kite soared up, defying all odds, until it reached the same height as before, maybe even higher. This time, it stayed strong, dancing proudly against the golden sky. The square erupted in cheers. Tears streamed down Arjun's face, but this time, they were tears of joy. He had done it. He had not only flown his kite, but had shown everyone that no matter how broken something may seem, it can always rise again if you refuse to give up. From that day on, Arjun became known not just as the boy who loved kites, but as the boy who taught a village the true meaning of perseverance. He had turned his greatest failure into his greatest victory. And every year, when the kite festival came around, the villagers remembered Arjun's story, the story of the boy who never gave up, even when everything seemed lost.